All right, let's continue with the story of Comet Atlas. And we're going to stop calling it Comet Atlas because it is factually and directly Planet 9, as it's been referred to throughout its history, when it was, I'm going to say, rediscovered back in the 1960s and 70s. Planet 9 was very well known back in antiquity by the Sumerians. The Sumerians were very well aware of this giant planet that has an exaggerated orbit around the sun and the solar system. So this was something that a very unique and very intelligent man discovered from the Sumerians, and his name is Zecharia Sitchin. He was a Jewish man, so he was raised basically in pre-Israeli Israel, what they called back then the Palestinian properties, which was part of England, and Zecharia was very familiar with the Hebrew language, which is a Semitic language. And so he ended up emigrating to New York in 1952 as a shipping executive. So he had a bit of wealth and a little bit erudite and could study, and he became interested in an ancient culture, the basic of the Semitic culture, the Sumerians, which are the ancestors of the Jews, of the Israeli people. And so he became interested, taught himself Sumerian cuneiform, which is a language written in clay that is then baked and is able to be preserved for thousands upon thousands of years, and they have been preserved for thousands and thousands of years. So when archaeologists in the 1900s, early 1900s, were going through Iraq, ancient Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and the Euphrates, the ancient land of the gods in the Old Testament, Zecharia Sitchin kind of put everything together because he was a Jew. He understood the Jewishness of Jews and of the Torah, a very, very ancient book and very, very complex, especially in the beginning parts of Genesis. And when you match the Sumerian stories with the Genesis stories of the Old Testament, of the Torah, then you understand that there's definitely a link there. And the Sumerian gods were gods that were linked to the Old Testament and the Torah. Understand that Jews are aware that there is their God that they follow devoutly because their God freed them from Egypt. But in the time of Moses, the God of the Jews was doing battle with the God of the Egyptians through Moses and Pharaoh. So Pharaoh didn't follow the God of the Jews. He had his own pantheon of gods that gave him power to battle the very powerful God of the Jews. That's in the Old Testament. That's the Torah. So there were many gods. And then if you go back into the Genesis story, there were many gods that the one God that created Adam and Eve spoke to. And there were angels, and there was a very busy heaven going on. So heaven's in the sky, heaven's real, there is a God, He created Adam and Eve. And if you put a little science fiction in there and you follow the Sumerian story very closely, the Torah is a very real and very strong message in a bottle sent over centuries for the for the faithful to follow, because sooner or later, Planet 9 is coming back. Planet X is coming back. And as Zachariah Sitchin, whose picture is here, and he's holding a very small rendition. Well, actually, what he is holding is a large rendition of a very small spherical object that you would roll out in clay and would basically tell a story. Well, in there you can see that there are 12 planets, and they give their sizes too. So those are the planets of the solar system, with the star in the middle being the sun. Okay, so the Sumerians, and there's so many different dates of when the Sumerians actually existed, but I'm going to give it about 8,000 to 9,000 years ago. When we can talk about this society that we're looking at, that Zach is holding the cylinder. It's not a sphere, it's a cylinder that rolls out and it tells a story. What you're seeing there seated is the main god, Enki. And many people that have associated the Torah with the Sumerians have a strong feeling that this god Enki is the god of the Torah and the god of the Jews and the god of Abraham. And what you see in this cylinder relief is that over 5,000 years ago, the people that inhabited the earth believed that the sun was in the middle and the planets went around the sun. And somehow, through, when you do telephone, this message in the bottle, the Torah, through the advent of Christianity and the power of the Catholic Church, decided that the earth and humans and the creation of God was the center of the universe, and everything spun around us. But then we had Galileo, and he had read the old writings of the Greeks and the Sumerians, who said that there may be a chance that the sun may be the center of this solar system. And so there's always been the understanding that the sun was the center of the solar system. It's just that after the gods left and this Planet 9 went on its journey again for what we think now is either 3,000 or 2,000 years, a lot was done with that message in a bottle, the Torah, reinterpretations, rewritings. But the Jewish people, the faithful Jewish people, the people that have observed the Sabbath and have eaten kosher and have done the things right, it could be pretty exciting. It can be very exciting, because if this is that God of the Jews is coming back, there may be a very good chance that this ninth planet is not only coming back with Enki and the gods and the creators of humans, of the planet Earth, of all that we see and that we are, but hopefully maybe there might be a chance that the ancestors are coming back too with them. And I just kind of keep getting that feeling. The planet coming back didn't just come back as a surprise, because right now there is a giant sphere screaming across the heavens. It's already inside the orbit of Mars, close to Earth, coming through the north, as we're going to see over the next couple of weeks. So it's very close, and the controller of this planet, because this planet has navigation, has already sent 2 warnings to the inhabitants of Earth, and there was communication, obviously, between the governments of the planet Earth and the planet. So let's go back to probably when this started. This started back in 2007 with the first FRB, the fast radio burst. I'm going to put that up here again. I put it in my last video, but just so that we can keep track of the language. And the first fast radio burst that we were able to capture and identify, I don't think we were able to actually record the sound, but we were able to see it on a scope. That was the first message sent that we were able to capture, so we knew what frequencies to look at for this fast radio burst. We thought at first that this came from far and deep space because it was so faint. It was cell phone signal faint, but we were able to capture it, and we saw it in a scope. And then in 2012, we were actually able to record a fast radio burst, an FRB. And when we were able to record it, then we were able to slow it down. And I hope that I'll try to play the fast radio burst right here. So there's static, and then there's a giant chirp, and then static again. And in that giant chirp, there's information. I'm a network engineer, so I understand packets going through a wire or going through the air. And right now, because I'm in a wireless environment, there's packets of data flying through here, and if I had the right equipment, I could capture it. It's called a sniffer, and there's packets of information that are so tiny, so tiny, but they have a bunch of information. And if you see them, they're just a burst. They're just a burst of light. They're a 1 and 0, 1 zeros, 1 zeros, 1 zeros. But when you slow it down, you're able to pull data out of that packet, and those are internet packets that we get to enjoy our internet with. So data packets happen. They're a very real thing. This burst here, this little line and this little chirp, you slow it down and it sounds like this. So in that rumble, you hear something. As a network engineer, I hear data. And I remember when I saw this in 2016 when people started talking about FRBs, because there was a big series that came in 2016 that we were able to know about. How many that we don't know about well, the tale will be told after it all comes out. But in 2016, there was a rapid boost of FRBs and FRB activity. And so there's obviously data that we were receiving, and we can capture that data through amateurs or through professionals and release that to the public or just make note of it. But what we can't capture as the public is the outgoing transmissions, the outgoing bursts that we do, the fast radio bursts that we do. We don't capture those. So if there was traffic bursting, then it was going back and forth. So in 2016, we were communicating with the 12th planet. We were communicating with Planet X. We're communicating with Planet 9. This planet is called Nibiru. Nibiru. You don't have to roll your R. I speak Spanish. I'm half Spanish. I'm half Basque, actually. So I can roll my R's. And for Americans or North Americans, Nibiru is a good translation as well. So Nibiru is coming back. The leaders of the planet Earth have been communicating with it because Donald Trump is not freaking out about a planet half the size of the sun floating across his inner solar system. He created a space force. We've got that. So obviously the president is aware of space, and I'm sure Space Force has said, I know you're busy, Mr. President, we've got the coronavirus going on, but you got to know that there's a planet half the size of the sun floating across the inner solar system. The president's probably, I know, I've got a whole team that's read in on this that none of the other government knows about, and they are giving me the proper information. So those guys in the government are aware of Nibiru, and as it comes in, they've also surreptitiously released some information. The planet is huge, huge, huge. It's many times the size of Jupiter. 7 to 10 Jupiters can fit in this planet. It is a known entity to NASA. So NASA started talking about the ninth planet, Planet X, Planet 9, in 2016. There is a Caltech paper that was released in January 20th saying there is real evidence of the ninth planet existing. Then in June of 2016, NASA officially cautious about Planet 9. This is a video that you can find on YouTube, and there is cautious optimism given in a speech by Jim Green, the director of planetary science of NASA. So back in 2016, they were putting signals out there that Planet 9 is a real deal, and it's massive. And then, there wasn't much information, but all of a sudden, in 2017, there was a solar observatory that was suddenly shut down and evacuated by the FBI and the military for a week. And then about 6 other observatories' live feed cams were shut down as well, all suddenly, and they were shut down for a while. And then a week later, and not only was the observatory shut down, but also the post office of the town was seized and evacuated and shut down by the FBI. And the first thing you think of, well, if it's the post office back then, it was the white powder. Somebody was sending some dangerous white powder through the mail. But then the report was that it was pornography. Well, you don't need to shut a solar observatory down for a week for pornography. You just seize the computers, the servers. You don't even need to close the place down. So something big happened in 2017 that was observable by many solar observatories. So there was something going around the sun that was observable. And then came all the talk about FRBs that started entering the science sphere, and I was aware of it. And then came Oumuamua, and then Borisov came last year. Big notice of that it was here, and there was a lot of excitement in the news. The second interplanetary, all of a sudden interplanetary visitors, and nothing. It entered, and we didn't see pictures of it going across the sky. We didn't see anything, information. All of the absolute kibosh was put on any information on Borisov. It came in March, and everything was quiet about it. And then suddenly, this week, we have Nibiru entering our solar system. So it's now entering. It's going to go over the north of Earth, and it's going to go under Earth. And we're going to see it traverse through the skies. We're going to watch its journey, and it's going to go under and around the Earth, and it's going to come up as an eastern star that doesn't dim. And so when it gets here as the eastern star, it's going to be a Bethlehem star. There's going to be that association with the Torah, and the Torah again is a message in a bottle. And so so there's going to be validation there. And then I fully expect for the beings that inhabit that to come back and visit us, and let us visit them in their ship, in their realm. And there may be actually the time where all the ancestors can come back down to Earth, and there can be great reunions that have been talked about in all of the religious texts, and all the scholars, and everything that is religion for real talked about the soul. And everybody that has died, that has come back, has mostly talked about an out-of-body experience. So very exciting times happening here. And this is a 20-minute video. We'll get to another video tomorrow. I'll do another one kind of to follow up on what's going to be happening. All right, guys. Thanks. Bye. Peace.